Hello there. I am Samson Websi in Yaoundé, accompanied by the entire production team of Political Focus to serve you another installment of the program. Members of the National Assembly and of the Senate are meeting in Yaoundé for the second ordinary session of Parliament for the 2019 legislative year. In fact, as both houses of Parliament resumed deliberations on Monday, the 10th of June, a certain silver cloud of expectation seems to have enveloped the entire country that has for several months now been plunged into conjectures over the crisis rocking the country. Since the members of Parliament left Yaoundé in the month of March 2019, much water has gone under the bridge in terms of efforts towards ending the spate of bloodletting in the northwest and southwest regions and opening the way for dialogue and peace. The lawmakers during the parliamentary interval either saw or accompanied Prime Minister Joseph John Gute to the northwest and southwest regions on a peace assignment decided by President Paul Biya. Promising shoots of that initiative are yet to sprout and blossom in the form of an end to the violence that should make way for sober reflection on the way forward. Yet, during the parliamentary break, the Speaker of the National Assembly and the President of the Senate found themselves lashing back at statements from some foreign parliaments and institutions on the socio-political situation in Cameroon. Both personalities describe these statements as meddling in the internal affairs of a sovereign country that Cameroon is. But by and large, some of these happenings both in Cameroon and abroad will surely have a bearing on the deliberations during the current session of Parliament. A session that is quite open with no predetermined item on the agenda. And so, as the National Assembly and the Senate embark on what might turn out to be a more exciting session, Political Focus will today preview the June session in the light of the major concerns in Cameroon today. Stay tuned, I will be right back. Welcome back. Let's now refresh our memories on the political stories of the week as reported by some newspapers in Cameroon. Charles Tembe has our press review.
Cameroon Tribune reports that the June ordinary session of Parliament officially opened this week with the House Speakers of the Senate and the National Assembly calling on members to support initiatives by government to restore peace and stability in the northwest and southwest. Mutasong says National Assembly Speaker Kavaya Yege Jibril accused foreign powers of interfering in the internal affairs of Cameroon, but failed to pronounce on the announced dialogue by Prime Minister John Gute, while Senate Speaker Marcel Nyat Njifenji invited senators to support the awaited dialogue. The Social Democratic Front, the SDF, has pledged its support to initiatives for dialogue and mediation in the Anglophone crisis, reports Cameroon Tribune. This was during the party's National Executive Committee NEC meeting that took place last weekend in Yaoundé. Cameroon Tribune also reports the working visit to the northwest and southwest regions of the minister delegate at the presidency in charge of defense, Betty Asomo, who urged soldiers to be more disciplined in the line of duty. The Post newspaper says stockpiles of dead guns welcomed the defense minister as he consoled wounded and hospitalized soldiers while condemning the use of mobile phones during operations. The Post also reports that a ruthless crackdown on supporters of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, the CRM party, frustrated nationwide demonstrations planned for last weekend. Cameroon Tribune publishes 2 tweets by the Minister of Communication and Government spokesman, Rene Emmanuel Sadi, who says, contrary to information peddled on social media, 85 supporters of the CRM party were arrested during an unauthorized demonstration last weekend, out of whom 54 have been freed, while the others are still being questioned. Meanwhile, the Cameroon Bar Association has called for the release of Barrister Michel Ndoki, reports Le Jour. This was during the solemn opening of the judicial year that ended in a colloquium in Yaoundé. The bar president, Chakunte Pate, insisted that the bar is for the release of Michel Ndoki, the loyal, and not the CRM supporter. In response to the lawyer's call, the minister delegate at the Ministry of Justice, Jean de Dieu Momo, said it's important to separate the lawyer from the ordinary citizen when looking at issues, as no citizen is above the law. That'll be it for Political News Review this week.
Charles Tembe with our press review. Members of the National Assembly and of the Senate have since the 10th of June 2019 been meeting in Yaoundé for the second ordinary session of Parliament for the 2019 legislative year. The session is taking place against the backdrop of the bloody conflict in the northwest and southwest regions. And given that the session has no predetermined item on the agenda, public expectations are high that the problem may after all come up for formal discussion in Parliament. Sam Bukuba summed up the expectations of some Cameroonians in the following report.
The June ordinary session of Parliament comes against the backdrop of mounting concerns among Cameroonians. The ugly spate of insecurity in the northern regions, as well as the Anglophone crisis with its knock-on effect on the economy, leave members of the Senate and the National Assembly with their hands full and the people's expectations sky high.
I expect them to talk about the political situation of our country. For my observation, things are not going very well, and there are many situations that we are facing. Example of crisis in Northwest, that is really impacting our economy, and there are problems in North. There are a little insecurity in East region. So I think maybe they can just propose us something because we vote them to represent us and to talk about the problem that we face. So it is appropriate for them to talk about the political situation that we are facing.
I would like them to discuss about the current situation of our country. What is going on in the Anglophone zone, like in Northwest and Southwest, has been a loss, a great loss to the country because we've lost a lot of lives, properties, and so on. And more to that is affecting the country economically and financially. Financially in such a way that now business has been so hard. Before we sold many things and now business is hard. We sell less. At times we go no customers because there's no money out. Because once part of the country is paralyzed, so it affects the country financially. And also some of the goods we used to buy in the markets like plantains, carrots, it has been very expensive because those were some of the products that came from the northwest and the southwest regions. And so since those sites are affected, it also affects the whole country.
At the moment, we are just so focused on the crisis and it's getting too much. We just want to see Cameroon to be what Cameroon used to be before. We just wish and hope they will discuss more about the Anglophone crisis because it's been like too much and we are getting so tired about it. We just wish they should talk more about it and try to see solutions. After that, we can see other issues.
And other issues that the people's representatives are expected to address include service delivery and governance.
I would like very much that our members of parliament should question the government very well on the electricity and water problems in Cameroon, because this is still a very serious problem in the country. And I want to move from there to go to the problem of infrastructure. Here in Adamawa, you see that we don't have roads. Roads are just terrible. I can cite several of them to you. From Gaoundere here going to the University of Gaoundere, from Mardok to University, from Gaoundere to Garwa, the route is still very bad. Something that was promised for 6 months has taken more than 4 years now. I think those are some of the issues that the parliament should call the members of government to speak on.
The weight of expectations could not have been heavier on the MPs and senators who, it can only be hoped, will not bury their heads in the sand in typical ostrich fashion, but keep a date with destiny.
Sam Bukuba. It's our pleasure to have as guest on the program today, Honorable Njume Peter Ambang. You've just resumed the June session of the National Assembly. Can you tell us what you are doing during the break?
We are expecting elections this year, as we made to understand by the head of state. And so within this period, I've been struggling to see how I can mobilize my electorate to register and get prepared for the elections. I've also tried to see how I could be in touch with my population, especially during these moments when they are passing through difficult situations. I tried to see how I could send some food items to the people down there. It is true that those who are displaced are being taken care of by the government, but what of those who are in place, those who do not run to the bushes, and those who hadn't a place to go to? I realized that they too were passing through difficult moments, so I had to buy some food items to give those of them who remain in the villages and to encourage them. Moreover, I've also been struggling to see how I could do one or two things for myself.
You said you bought and sent food items back to your constituency, which means that you were not able to go back to your constituency and interact directly with those who elected you.
You know, it wasn't easy. I think I want to take this opportunity to thank my God who gave me the courage to go. Actually, I was in Ikunutiti, you will not believe it, after being out for 1 year, 4 months, and about 3 weeks. I braved it, understanding what the people are passing through. I had to make myself one with them. And sending the food items, they couldn't have taken me serious. And so I decided to brave it. After, of course, sending word, and people came from the villages. It was a very interesting occasion. You will not believe it. And it was so wonderful for me stepping my foot once more in my village. And you could imagine the enthusiasm. The people welcomed me with dances. There was total euphoria. And they were so happy with the food items I brought for them. And I think that also gave them the hope that things are not after everything so bad.
By being on the field, you were able to touch the reality.
That's right.
The difficulties the people are going through.
That's right.
How do you intend to put their worries to your colleagues in the National Assembly?
You know, when I went down there and I saw what the people are passing through, to be very honest with you, Samson Websi, I think every Cameroonian should be working towards peace. It is time all of us start thinking peace, start working for peace, and start understanding that this crisis is harming us, harming our people, and making us to pass through very, very difficult moments. Poverty rate has increased. The money is not there. And people are not having it easy. So what is the next thing? I think we should start working towards peace. And that is why my prayer is that this dialogue, which is very much expected, should come very fast and let everybody be ready for the dialogue. It's a give and take, so that through that dialogue, peace can come back to Cameroon.
Are you expecting to either put a question in Parliament or to see it addressed as an issue on the agenda during this session?
Addressing a question may not give me the satisfaction that I think I should have. You know, sometimes you address a question to a minister and the minister will provide the answer that he can provide, but which may not be to your satisfaction. What I'm thinking and what I'm hoping for is that the government should come up with a solution to the problem, not a question that comes from me. I was so happy with the Prime Minister head of government. He kept talking about peace, and he kept talking about the willingness of the government to go into dialogue in order to address this problem. I think that is what I am very much hoping to see, that the government takes the initiative and that things are put on the table for us to experience the peace that we very much need in Cameroon.
But at the level of Parliament, you are also expected to do something, given that during the parliamentary break, you had foreign parliaments which more or less rattled you out of what could be described as your silence on the issues.
No, it is very true. You know, the Parliament has not actually taken an initiative in itself as a body up to this moment. We are supporting government action. We are trying to encourage government to move ahead. But we ourselves as a body, as an institution, have not taken any particular action except in terms of maybe rhetorics and things like that. And if I were given the opportunity to say something, I think I would suggest that the Parliament should also sit down and think as the people's representative what they can chip in, what they can contribute as a way forward to solving this problem.
You are the representative of the people. We are looking forward towards elections, and you have an opportunity to prove to the electorate that you truly represent them in the National Assembly. Do you feel comfortable if elections were to be convened now, that you go back to your constituency and be able to tell those who send you to Parliament that you represented them well?
Insofar as this crisis is concerned, and in as much as the National Assembly has not been able to come up as an institution with its own action, I don't feel comfortable with it. But as an individual, I think I've been able to talk on behalf of my people. But what I have been saying has not got greater impact as if the institution itself, National Assembly, stood up and took certain actions.
In the National Assembly, apart from things that are discussed formally, do you interact with your colleagues, even those of the opposition, and what do you discuss among yourselves concerning this issue?
Yes, of course, we do interact. You know, what we are facing today is a national concern. It's not something of one political party or the other political party. All of us are very concerned. And so we have been discussing as the people's representatives, not as members of parliament from CPDM, SDF, MDR, no. And we have been interacting and we have been thinking together on the way forward. We have been talking, but we have not come up with concrete decisions or concrete actions on this issue. But to be talking about the issue and to see the way forward, we have been dialoguing, we have been debating on it. I must assure you that all the members of parliament agree that it is time we work to see an end to this problem. Maybe this June session, who knows, this worry, this anxiety may trigger MPs to actually say no, they should come up with a concrete action.
So what will you tell those who are listening to us out there? That we should expect something to come from Parliament in the line of addressing the different concerns that we have today?
You know, when the speaker, during the opening, presented his opening speech, there were two things that I drew from his speech, which I think were like a take-home message for me, and from where I think I will lay my hopes on. He talked of peace. He talked of this crisis, which therefore means that even the National Assembly is now focused on seeing that peace reigns in Cameroon. Since he mentioned it several times in his speech and with a lot of emphasis, I want to believe that this June session, discussions will be focused on this issue of arriving at solutions to this problem. The second thing he mentioned was that he told the Prime Minister that the National Assembly was behind him. This to me is a clear indication that the National Assembly has recognized the efforts put in place so far by the Prime Minister aimed at solving this problem.
Honorable, while we hope that it will not be business as usual in the National Assembly, we want to wish you the best as you engage in a session that is giving a lot of expectations to Cameroonians out there.
Thank you so much. In fact, everything is possible during this June session.
It was a pleasure having you as guest.
It's always my pleasure. Thank you so much.
If you are just tuning in, this is Political Focus, coming to you from the national station of the CRTV in Yaoundé. Our guest on the second part of Political Focus is Madame Regina Monti. She's a senator from the Northwest region, and it's a pleasure to have you on the program, Madame.
Thank you very much.
You've just resumed the June session of the Senate. Can you tell us in what frame of mind you're starting that session?
Well, I'm eagerly looking forward to doing work during this session. But my frame of mind, well, as you say, I'm not terribly happy. And you should know why I'm not happy.
Can you tell us why?
Yes, coming from the Northwest region, I cannot be that excited to jump like a butterfly to think that everything is okay. No, because certainly it's not. I came back from Bamenda on Sunday. I got into town. And coming from Bamenda town, I can tell you it's a challenge. So at this point in time, I really cannot express very, very well in words what my frame of mind is.
Maybe before we get into the substance of what you are looking forward to discuss in the Senate, can you tell us what you did during the break?
Yes, I had quite a busy time during the break. I was particularly occupied with pregnant women because one of the things I want to do during my senatorial period and beyond that period is to join the fight against maternal and infant mortality. So during the break, I, in collaboration with the Delegate of Health and other health infrastructure in the city of Bamenda, I got almost 200 IDP pregnant women, and they were registered, and I gave them delivery kits. These are kits that they would use when they go to deliver, because this is a very important aspect of healthcare. And the situation in the region has simply made things more complicated. You know that the rate of maternal deaths in the country has instead been going up. Now, in the Northwest region, the current situation has made it even worse. So that is why I targeted these pregnant IDPs. So we encourage women to register in health institutions. And once they register and are in possession of this kit, it costs 6,000 francs. They could have 2 days in the hospital when they go to deliver, free of charge. They don't pay anything again when they go to deliver.
We understand you distributed this kit essentially in Bamenda. How do you intend to reach the internally displaced who are in very remote areas, who are far off from places where you can easily get access to?
Yes, this is a beginning. Those ones that we gave these kits to in Bamenda, they are from different parts of the region. They were not just women from Bamenda. But it is my hope and desire to go further and reach out to many more women. That is why one of my plea is that other women who are interested in reducing maternal deaths in the region could join hands with me. It is really, really sad to see these women who are displaced not being able to have the kind of care that they should have during pregnancy. And I'm calling on women who are interested in this to join hands with me so that we can do it. And we are calling on everybody, really, to join hands to fight maternal mortality within the region.
You've talked about the situation in the Northwest region. Beyond giving the assistance to these women and the other vulnerable groups, there's much talk about dialogue and trying to cool the tense atmosphere there down. What has been your role in trying to achieve all of this?
My role as an individual, as a member of the CPDM Politburo and a member of the Northwest Regional Team, I have many places to air my opinion. And I live in Bamenda town and I meet people of different categories and we talk. And I can tell you that my message has been going from the grassroots right up to the top. And what is this message that I have been trying to pass around? It is that there is nothing we can do with this chaotic situation under which we find ourselves. And I tell everybody, yes, the Anglophones had every reason to be angry. Yes, they had every reason to feel marginalized. They had every reason to feel that they were being treated as second-class citizens. There is no doubt about that. We have a situation that is verifiable to know that this is what happened. It's not like you're saying something which is fictitious. They have every reason to think that since the Constitution of 1961, and then we moved on to another Constitution of 1972 and so on, there are people who are specialists who have examined the different constitutional changes and have seen that there were certain things there that should have been corrected. Certain things that if they had been corrected would not have been where we are today. Yes, we agree. We have had grievances. People are now traumatized. People are suffering. The degree of poverty at the grassroots level is so enormous. The economy is collapsing. People are homeless. I mean, so many different things that you can think of which is not good for us is happening now. But then, shall we continue like this? My plea to many people, right up to the highest level, is that both sides, we should stop any kind of killings and have a moment of truce. Let us call it truce. And then we see that within this period of peace, what could be done. The Anglophone problem has gone wide. It has been registered. The head of state knows about the Anglophone problem. He is concerned about this Anglophone problem. He is worried about resolving the Anglophone problem. But can anything be done in this situation where we are at each other's throat? What can be done is that everybody has to come on board for us to have peace. And when we have peace, then we can move on to see how we can rectify the wrongs that have been made and correct the situation.
Don't you think that you, the elite of the Northwest and Southwest, are partly responsible because you are being accused of having not well articulated these problems even when they were still boiling?
I really would not want to put a finger on anybody as far as this problem is concerned. No. You find yourself, something happens. Maybe just a drop of kerosene gets into the fire and the house gets burnt. You are not going to start blaming one child, which child kept that bottle of kerosene there and so on, who had the matchbox and so on. The issue is that we have this problem now on our hands. And wherever the problem came from, however it started to explode, we cannot continue in this explosive situation. Take teachers. In fact, teachers have been badly hit. Now teachers are everywhere. They are scattered all over the country. What we need now is a peaceful atmosphere whereby the people who have been hit can be reorientated. You have teachers, you have school children, you have young people, farmers, traders, people who are dying of high blood pressure now, collapsing and dying because they have lost everything. People are heavily traumatized. And what we need now is to see how we are going to bring back these people to live normal lives. And this is a task that everybody has to do. We should not at this point be blaming X and blaming Y for doing one thing or the other. We have this task of reconstructing our society, and all of us have got to do it.
In trying to achieve what you are talking about, what is your working relationship with your colleagues from the Northwest region and even from the other regions?
All of us have the same thing in mind. We want peace in our region. We want the people who have been hardly hit to be rehabilitated. All of us, we share that view. We are in agreement. We share the pain of especially those who have suffered the loss of family members. There are so many widows now in the country, so many orphans.
But we should be seeing you acting together with your other colleagues to see things happen instead of just expressing concern, just verbal declarations and then no action.
When you say no action, what kind of action are you expecting? We are acting in our own different ways, in our own different directions. And most of us are acting in our various constituencies. Because look, you have got to start from your own quarter and work outwards. You cannot just start now and say you're going to work in the whole of Mezam, for instance, or you're going to just work in the whole of Northwest. You must start from somewhere, from your own small area, and you are moving upwards. I know that the other senators are doing that. So when you say we should be working together, what exactly are you telling me? What do you expect?
We've not seen any proposal coming from you as a group. How do we stop the fighting and engage in dialogue?
When you say you have not seen any proposal coming from us as a group, you mean
a group of senators from the Northwest, or even the group of senators from the regions that are most hit, because the initiative should come from you who feel the pinch more than your colleagues who come from the other parts of the country.
Yes. We have had many proposals. In Yaoundé here, you have the Northwest Elites Group. This group meets under the chairmanship of the former Prime Minister, Mr. Philomene Yang. And many things have happened. Many proposals have been made. I know that before Mr. Diongute was appointed, he led one meeting where the Northwest and the Southwest members of Parliament and other elites met. And we had proposals, and these proposals were put together and forwarded to the right quarters. We will keep making these proposals until we see a solution. We are not just looking for solution to this problem to come from the top. All of us, we have got to look for solutions within our own areas. If you are a bike rider, you carry so many people during the day, what do you tell them? A taxi driver, you transport people, what do you tell them? You are a quarterhead, what do you tell your people?
What do you have in mind as your own personal proposal to maybe get Parliament involved? Because when we look at the problems, the way they are, there are aspects that have to do with laws. Assume that the government doesn't make any move in the direction of bringing the laws. Will you also just sit and wait?
Well, there is a procedure for getting laws. If the government doesn't bring it, we can have what is called a private members bill. And if a private member's bill comes up, certainly the two houses would examine that bill. To get the private member's bill, unfortunately, you can't just jump up and say the bill has to be drafted in a particular way that would be acceptable. Even when bills come, it first of all must be examined to see, even bills from government, to see whether that bill is a bill that can be accepted. So that situation there is a bit tricky because an MP cannot just get up on his own and propose a bill.
I'm asking the question about what you are doing because during the parliamentary break, we've had a number of foreign parliaments expressing concern about what is happening in Cameroon. It kind of put those of you who are in parliament in the tight corner that you are in a country, a situation is disturbing, you are not seen to be doing anything very concrete, whereas those who are outside are more concerned and expressing worry.
Yes, it's very easy to talk about what is in somebody's house, more so than what is in your own house. These are outsiders. Well, they have a right to say whatever they have to say. But as I say, are we talking just because we want to talk? Or you talk because you want action to be taken? There are two different things. People have talked. Unfortunately, it would appear that when people say things in parliament, it doesn't go out. But people only see the parliamentarians as sitting there quietly and doing nothing. I remember that one senator had talked about this issue. Honorable Chief Mokete had talked. One of our youngest senators from the Northwest,
Barrister Kemende
had talked. You see, talking and action are two different things. But I can tell you that we are lawmakers. If a bill from whatever source comes up concerning this matter, we will act. But for now, the main thing that parliamentarians can do now is to act individually. You've heard about what Honorable Engwe is doing. As a group, they are going out campaigning for peace in the region. That is action. They are not doing it as parliament. It's not parliament that is sending them, but they are doing that as individuals who are concerned.
So what will you tell those who are listening to us out there? Do we assume that it will be business as usual and then at the end we'll not see any concrete, strong action that will come to put an end to the fighting and open the way for dialogue and peace?
I would want to tell the people that the way has already been opened for dialogue and for peace because the head of state has put several measures down for peace, for dialogue. And I would say that the two sides, when two people are in any kind of a conflict, the two sides should be moving until you meet at a certain point. That when one side stays put, it's difficult. Or when two sides stay fixed, is difficult, but it's good that there should be some movement to meet and come to some consensus. And I would want to tell the people that the two houses, the Senate and the National Assembly, have this problem at heart. And we would not miss any opportunity to get the people's feelings, what they are experiencing now, get to where it should be for a solution. What we need now, I'll tell everybody, calm down. Your cries have been heard. Your cries are being listened to. Calm down and we will see where this action of peace and lower temperatures would lead us. So if we are all hot, people are suffering. I know that I'm coming from the field. But two wrongs usually don't make a right. We don't want the suffering to continue. We want it to come to an end. But I can assure our listeners that before the end of this session, the Senate that has already put forth some measures, if you listen to the speech of the president, he still talked about our living together, our togetherness, and he still talked about peace. Whatever measures has already been put down, we will hope that those measures will be pushed forward for us to have better results. And the action might not be taken as collectively as the Senate or as this, but those of us who are in there, who are feeling the pinch, we would perhaps strengthen our efforts.
Well, thank you very much, Senator Regina Monti. It was a pleasure to have you as guest on the program Political Focus on the CRTV.
Thank you very much for having me on your program.
And that is where we will round off today's edition of the program Political Focus. We had contributions from Charles Tembe and Sam Bukuba. Our sound technicians were Matthew Rensobokambi and Caroline Wait, while supervision was by Wayne Paul Ngam. And for presentation in Yaoundé, I have been your host, Samson Websi, thanking you for listening, and see you hopefully next week.